What about now? What about now? Good? Good? Can you hear me, Vinny? What about now? I think it's good now, huh? Right? Is it good now? Yep. I think it's good now. You can hear me? Cool, cool, cool. All right. All right. So, wanted to do this real quick. Shalom, shalom, mishpacha v'chabarim, all who are viewing. I wanted to do this real quick. Hope y'all had a good and blessed day so far. I've been wanting to do this since last week. I pretty much discovered some things probably like a week or two ago, and I discussed this with BA about bringing this out. I've always said I'm not above correction. Um, I'm always willing to learn, open to learn. It's just that when I'm going to be corrected, I need to be corrected with some solid evidence, things of that nature, especially when it comes to the word of the Most High. Um, I've been able to go through some things with me learning the original languages of the Bible. And learning the original languages, biblical Hebrew for Old Testament, biblical Greek for New Testament, that has led me down a path to textual criticism, right? And that path to textual criticism let me know that some things I brought out before are definitely incorrect, and I'm here to correct myself. I'm here to say I was wrong. This is about 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 and 35. And I'm going to be reading some things and showing you some things that I've discovered. This information has already been sitting out here, on the internet, whether it be in articles, PDFs, whether people have done YouTube. I'm just putting it out as well as a correction for me. I need to put it out and put my face on it because there was a video I did called Head Covering. I don't know if it was part 1 or part 2, but it's on my channel. And I was bringing out some information by Philip B. Payne. And Philip B. Payne said, okay, in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 through 35, he said it was an interpolation, which means something added to the original text that was not there. So I went back and did some research after I started, learning biblical Greek, starting to learn biblical Greek, and then also picked up this book right here. I picked this thing up. It's called The Text of the Earliest New Testament Greek Manuscripts. Philip Comfort, David Barrett. This is a real good find. I had it on my wish list for a while, and therefore, when it was permissible for me to get it, right, I went and got it. So, I'm going to read something from 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 34 to 35, and you'll know where I'm going with this, right? All right. 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 to 35. I'm going to read out of the scriptures ISR, right? Going to read out of the scriptures ISR. It says, "Let your women be silent in the assemblies, for they are not allowed to speak, but let them subject themselves, as the Torah also says." Now we know the Torah. There's one word for there's one word in biblical Greek for what you call law or instruction, and in biblical Greek, that's pretty much let me see. Sorry about that. Nomos. Nomos. Okay. So the word is nomos. All right. So sometimes when people see the word nomos or law or instruction in the Bible, especially when they read the New Testament, they think it's only referring to the Mosaic law or the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, right? They think it's always referring to that. However, what I've come to the conclusion of from the Holy Spirit in reading the text and doing some historical backdrop information, there were 3 different laws in play during the 1st century AD. Right, there was the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. Right, that's called the Mosaic law, or the law, instructions, and statutes that we got from the Most High Yahweh. Right, and then there's also the law of the land. Right. There's also the law of the land, because a lot of where Paul was roaming and teaching, those were Roman colony cities and lands and things like that. So they had laws of land like we have in America over here. And the other law that was in play in the first century AD was the oral law, what is known today as the Talmud, or the traditions of men. So all these three laws were in play at the same time. So there's one word in the biblical Greek, which is nomos, which actually means law. To know what law you're talking about, you have to get some context, some historical backdrop, and that's what we're going to do. So let me continue reading 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 to 35, right? So it said, "Let your women be silent in the assemblies, for they are not allowed to speak, but let them subject themselves, as the Torah also says. And if they wish to learn whatever, let them ask their own husbands at home, for it is improper, or it is a shame for women to speak in an assembly." All right, so I'm gonna say this, and this is what happened here. When I got this book here, I looked and I was like, okay, let me see if these two verses are in the original manuscripts, the papyri, right? The papyri. Let's see something. This is called Papyri 46, and from this book here, I'm on page 276. Let me see if I can give you a backdrop about First Corinthians real quick, from the beginning of the from where it talks about, we're going to show First Corinthians. Let me see if it gives a backdrop. Okay, no, it doesn't give a backdrop. Okay, so pretty much it reads thus. Says e gunaikes en des ecclesias se gatosan ugar epitrepetai autis lalen Allah hupotasto san katoski o namos lege. So that is pretty much women in the assembly. Let them keep silent, ugar, for not epitre. What is this? Epitrepeti, for it's not permitted them autu la name to speak Allah, but hupotastes to san. So that word is let them be under subjection. Now I'm trying to give my beginning biblical Greek rendering, okay? So bear with me. So this is verse 35 now. It says edetimatien telusin in oiko o tus idios andras excuse me eperotato san aixkran gargunaiki lalin in ecclesia. So that is, what is that? But if they are going to learn anything, well, they have to ask their own husbands pretty much when they get home, because they are not allowed, because the women are not allowed to speak in the assembly. Now, what comes after that? It made sense to me in verse 36. So let me read verse 36. I come to understand now that Paul was actually quoting in 1 Corinthians 34 and 35. Paul, or Shaul, was quoting the oral law. He was quoting something from the Talmud. And this is why. If you do some historical backdrop, you know that the Pharisees, Sadducees, they were in bed or in cahoots with the Romans. These are Roman colony cities, Corinth, and you have people trying to come in and teach the Gentiles, the nations. They're trying to teach the Gentiles or the nations that they have to follow the oral law as well as the written law. And so the oral law had some crazy things to say about women. They actually deemed some crazy things about women. And, pretty much this is where your misogyny comes from. Misogyny, a disdain or hate for women. And so the misogyny, the Pharisees, Sadducees had a lot of misogyny going on, and as I stated, those are some of the Jews came out of Babylonian captivity, and they got all sorts of crazy doctrine going on, and some of this seeped into the Greeks and the Romans. Pretty much, they picked it up. Anything from Babylon, it just keep getting carried on and carried on. So the Greeks and the Romans picked it up. All right. So the misogyny is here in the oral Talmud. It starts a lot there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share screen here. I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to just read to you 3 places where Paul is actually quoting some of the oral Talmud. And we know the oral Talmud is man-made traditions. And we know what the Messiah says about man-made traditions, like in Matthew chapter 15 and Mark chapter 7. Those man-made traditions, they put heavy burdens on the people, and they weren't written in the Mosaic law, right? All right. So let me read this to you here. How am I doing for anybody listening? Am I doing okay? I didn't want to make this too long. Let's share the screen. Let me turn it up here. Let me turn my volume up just a little bit. All right. So let me share screen here. Oh man. Okay. We got some creatures of nature flying around in the room. Anybody who knows me, I don't like creatures of nature all up in my space. You know what I mean? All right. Here we go. This is Better Coat 24a. Better Coat 24a. I'm just going to read to you just a little bit. I'm not going to read everything, but please go back on your own, and you can go to halakha.com. So halakah.com. Halakha.com, and you can see these PDFs. You can actually download it. It's actually the oral Talmud digitized, right? It's the oral law or the Talmud digitized. I'm just going to read to you one section here. One of these rabbis, right? Samuel said, "A woman's voice is a sexual incitement, as it says, for sweet is thy voice, and thy countenance is comely." Rabbi Shishet said, "A woman's hair is a sexual incitement, as it says, thy hair is as a flock of goats." So pretty much what this guy Samuel is saying is a woman's voice is a sexual incitement, as it says, for sweet is thy voice and thy countenance is comely. Reference number 25. So I'm going to go down here to reference 25. Kind of don't know where that comes from. This is the reference right here. I have to go back and look that up. But pretty much this guy is saying, this woman's voice is so sweet, it's going to actually arouse somebody sexually. And if it's going to arouse somebody sexually, then it pretty much shouldn't be heard in the assembly, right? That's just one of them. Better Coat 24a. Now I'm going to come over here to Kiddushin. Kiddushin, this is 70a. 70a, Kiddushin, right? This is his whole story. You can reread this whole story here. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But this guy, this is a story going on. I'm not going to read the whole story. Just let my daughter Donag come and serve drink, he proposed. And then the Samuel guy that was in Better Coat 24a, he replied, "One must not make use of a woman." And then the man whose daughter it is, right? He said, "She's only a child." And Samuel distinctly said, "One must make no use at all of a woman, whether adult or child." And then they start going into this thing later about, what's the age of a woman, right? But let me continue. It says, "Will you send a greeting to my wife Yaltha?" he suggested. And thus said Samuel, he replied, "To listen to a woman's voice is indecent. It is possible through a messenger?" He's asking this question. Thus says Samuel, he retorted, um, "One must not inquire after a woman's welfare." Samuel said again, he said one must not inquire after a woman's welfare at all. So pretty much, indecent means some nakedness. A woman's voice is her nakedness. That's what it's saying as well. Um, Let me read a reference here. Also, there's another rendering in Sepharia.org. Let me stop sharing for a hot second here. The rendering of Kiddushin 70a. It has another rendering too. It says, this is what Samuel says. So in Sepharia.org, it reads like this. It says, a woman's voice is considered nakedness, and one may not speak with her. Right? All right. So let me continue down to 70b. I'm going to share the screen again. I'm almost done with this video. I didn't want to make this too long. Kiddushin 70b. Okay. So we're going to go down a little bit. Let me see. Where did I want to go? Let's see. This may okay. I may have said everything I needed to say. Let's double check. Okay, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it from that. So actually, it would be good for anyone listening, watching later to go and read Kiddushin 70a and 70b. Get the whole story. But pretty much, I'm actually quoting what Paul quoted from the oral law in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 to 35. He was actually quoting the oral law. One more place in Sotah. This is Sotah 48a. 48a. All right. All right. Let me see here. Where do I want to start? Okay. This is about singing in the assembly, right? Singing in the assembly. So singing in the assembly is, of course, is a voice heard in an assembly, right? Right. All right. This is the Mishnah part of Sotah 48a. It says, when the Sanhedrin ceased to function, song ceased from the places of feasting. As it is said, they shall not drink wine with a song, etc. So now they're going into these crazy laws. They're adding and taking away. And I love what Brother BA says. When you add, you have to remove something. And when you remove something, you have to add. And that's why Deuteronomy 4 says not to add or take away from the Torah, what's written, right? So the Gemara says, how do we know that the text, they shall not drink wine with the song, applies to the time when the Sanhedrin ceased? Rabbi Huna, son of Rabbi Joshua, said, because scripture states, the elders have ceased from the gate, the young men from their music. All right. This part down here. Let's read this one. Rabbi, I'm down here. All right. Rabbi Huna said the singing of sailors and plowmen is permitted, but that of weavers is prohibited. Right? That of weavers is prohibited. And mainly, not just only, but mainly some of the women were weavers at that time, right? Let's go down here. Rabbi Joseph said, right? I'm down here now. Rabbi Joseph said, when men sing and women join in, it is licentiousness. When women sing and men join in, it is like fire in tow. Right? So pretty much saying this woman's voice can't be heard. Women joining in with men is licentiousness. It's like a disgraceful, shameful thing, right? So That is what Paul is quoting in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 to 35. He's quoting the oral law. Then he's rebuking the oral law in verse 36, where he says, or did the word of Elohim go out from you? Or did it reach only to you? Right? And in 1 Corinthians 14, right, what is Paul admonishing, right? He's talking about order in the assembly, talking about men and women have gifts to bring together in the assembly, right? So I just wanted to read that, give this video out, and say, you know what? I was wrong for saying initially that 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 and 35 were interpolations. I am corrected now by being able to go into some accredited scholarly sources and see what's written in the original papyri manuscripts, and also doing some historical backdrop information as to, okay, Paul was talking to these Corinthians. Corinth is a Roman colony. I know in the 1st century AD that you still have the Pharisees and Sadducees, people who believed in the oral Torah. They believed in their oral law. I know that they wanted to come in and creep in and try to teach the oral law is above the written law. And I know Paul had to deal with them looking at historical information. So Paul is saying, I know y'all coming in here with this oral law, and I'm going to quote you this oral law. And I'm going to tell you, did this only come from you? Nah. Did the word of the Father only come to you? Nah. We know about Joel chapter 2, right? The Most High Yahweh uses men and women as vessels to spread the truth of the word in love. The Holy Spirit is poured upon men and women, right? And you can read from 1 Corinthians 12, 1 Corinthians 13, 1 Corinthians 14, that these things are going on in the assembly, and Paul is trying to bring order. Paul is trying to bring order as set forth in the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, right? That's what Paul is trying to do. So, I know the live chat is going. I still got some people viewing. I'm going to end this, but before I do, are there any questions or concerns, or any observations, anything you want to ask or comment on before I end this video? You want me to repeat the oral law references again? Just let me know. If you think of something later and you want to ask, feel free to do so in the comment section, all that good stuff. So I'm not above correction. I just need to have some manuscripts, some documents, some historical information, things of that nature, right? Right. All right. So with that being said, I want to say I love y'all with the love of the Most High through his son, Yeshua. I want to make sure y'all have a good and blessed rest of your evening. Make sure you have a good and blessed rest of your week. Spread love, compassion, grace, mercy, and long suffering out there to the people. This your girl 916 Shanti Doc on the Facebook. Ashanti. Shalom, shalom. We better hope mishpacha wa habrim. I'm out.